Hi, it's Mike Panja. Today we're going to be making scallion pancakes, a really great Chinese appetizer. You can pair it with the curry chicken that I featured recently, or even with Chinese takeout, or just serve it as a snack by itself without anything special. It'll still be fun and it'll still be delicious. Here are the ingredients you'll need to make scallion pancakes, as well as the dipping sauce for them. Let's get started on the dough for our scallion pancakes. First thing we'll need is 120 grams. You know I like to use weight, so that's what I'm going to use. But for those of you that don't, it's 1 cup, okay? 120 grams of all-purpose flour. 47, 101. Uh-oh, went way over. 145, 136, 124, 122, 119, 121. I like to hit it exactly. It's not that important, but it's fun. 120. I'd like to congratulate myself. No one else is going to do it. Good job, Mike. 120 grams exactly. Okay, we can put the flour away for the moment. Now, the order that I like to do this in counts. The next thing I like to put in is 14 grams of a vegetable oil. I use canola oil. 14 grams happens to be a tablespoon. But I would have to dirty a tablespoon. I don't want to. I can do it by weight instead. So we'll zero the scale again and looking for 14 grams. The reason I have this order is because I want to coat the flour particles with the oil before I put the water in. There's 11, 12, 13, 14. Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to do it by hand. And, well, first I'm going to give it a stir with the spatula so I don't get so much oil directly on my hand. We'll stir it up a little bit. Now, when you put your hand into flour, it feels pretty much like talcum powder when you first touch it. But what I'm looking for here is squeezing the oil onto the grains in a way that it feels more like slightly damp beach sand, if you can imagine. That's kind of how it feels when you squeeze it together. So that's what I'm looking for. I can feel little particles of oil, little clumps of oil, and I'm breaking them up and spreading them out in the flour. So now we'll need 3/4 of a cup or 180 grams of very hot water, which I have in the microwave here. Okay, looking for 180 grams. Three-quarters of a cup. 163, 75, 82. Let's scoop a little out. Let's scoop a little out and get it to 2, I think. What happened here? I'm now getting a reading of 215. So we gotta get some of this water out of here. 210, 41. I don't know how this happened. Very strange. You have to be flexible. 192. It's still way over. $176. Put a little back. 77. 79. 80. Okay, I don't know how that happened, but I'm showing it to you because it's real. This is what could really happen to you. The other thing we need in here is 3/4 of a tablespoon of kosher salt. That's probably a little less. It kind of looks like 3/4 of a tablespoon to me. So let's sprinkle that in, and we can get rid of the scale and stir this all up. The last batch I made of this, the dough came out very wet, too wet I thought, and I had to add a little more flour. I wonder if it was a scale malfunction, like I just had. You know, I'm going to use my judgment here and say that this dough is really too wet and throw in a little more flour. I hope you don't think that's not fair, because you have to use judgment when you're cooking, especially baked goods, especially dough. That's better. That's mixing up more like a dough that I want to work with. I'm going to cover the dough with plastic wrap and let it rest for about 15 minutes. I don't know if you can hear that background noise. That's my air conditioner blower. It's the noisiest blower I've ever heard. And if there are any HVAC guys out there that have an idea of how to service the thing or how to replace that noisy blower, I'd really like to hear from you. You can put it in the comments, or you can email me at mike@mikepangio.com. I'd appreciate it. Now our pancake dough has rested. I'm going to take the plastic off. Put a little flour on top. Flour my work surface. Flour my hands, and let's scoop this dough out and see what happens. It's still pretty wet, so I'm going to put a jar. Pee-wee, calm down, please. Okay. The next step is we want to knead this dough for about 5 minutes. Once the kneading is done, I'm going to form it into a ball, wrap it in plastic wrap, rest, this time for an hour. Before we work on the pancake, we should prepare some of the scallions, the green onions. Now slice them very thin, and that'll help avoid the pieces breaking through the thin pancake when we roll it out. So I want to cut these very thin. I'm using 3 green onions to make 2 scallion pancakes. Cutting them very thin. I'm going to prepare an oil mix for brushing. We brush the inside of the dough. All right. I'm not going to give you measurements. I mean, I'm guessing it's about 1.5 tablespoons of canola oil or any vegetable oil and an equal amount of sesame oil. Get that heated up. Once that's warmed up, we're going to put a little cornstarch, maybe 3/4 of a teaspoon or so. Stir that until it dissolves. If you don't have cornstarch, you can use regular flour and it'll have the same effect. You can see it's well dissolved in the oil. So we'll just let that cool a bit until we need it. The other thing to prepare is a 50-50 mixture of a neutral oil like canola oil with your toasted sesame oil. You don't have to measure, but about a 50-50 mix is right. The whole thing should come to about less than 1/2 cup. Our dough has rested for an hour. We want to cut this in half. Cover the part we're not using at the moment. And I'm going to put a little flour on my rolling pin so it doesn't stick. There's a couple of different ways of rolling out the pancake. I am going to use the long rectangle method. Working with a very thin dough, I find it's helpful to flour it and turn it over, roll it out again. That's what I'm going to do. Now very lightly we're going to take some of that oil blend we made and brush the dough with it. Stay about a ½ inch away from the edges. You can brush right up to that point. Now we'll get our scallions. Put a generous portion. Okay. Very lightly sprinkle just a few grains of kosher salt. Now, we're going to take the long end and start to roll it. Roll it toward you. Roll it very tight. Push it in as you roll to make it extra tight. Once you have it rolled up tight, go to one end and start rolling it up like a cinnamon bun. When you get to the end, take the tail of the thing and put it underneath the main section. Now, squash it down with your hand. Now, I hope you don't think this is cheating. I am going to use my tortilla press. I suspect that most, if not all of you, do not have a tortilla press, but that's okay because I'm going to show you a great workaround that does the same thing as the press. So what I'm going to do here is put a piece of plastic under the dough. Put the dough in the press. And put a piece of plastic over it. And now press it. Kind of fun, huh? Now, I promised you a good work around, and I hope you're not thinking I brought out my tortilla press just to show it off. I really did. But you don't need it. I'm going to show you a trick here that actually would work well making tortillas also, but it's perfect for what we're trying to accomplish here. We take a flat bottom saucepan, put plastic under and over our dough, and now we press it down. Rock it all around so that you get even pressure on our scallion pancake. Now, we want to get it as thin as possible, so even though we pressed it down pretty well, I like to do a little bit more with the rolling pin, just to make sure. Get it as thin as we can so it'll come out nice and flaky when it's fried. Okay, I'm calling that done. You know, after I recommended using dry cleaning plastic, I had another idea. That's something we probably all have around our kitchen that'll be much easier to use. And that is a 1 gallon plastic food storage bag. If you take your carving knife, you can split it up the side, on both sides, and it makes a perfect book-like plastic enclosure for your dough. I'm going to put a little oil in my cast iron skillet. I'm using the blend of the canola oil and the sesame oil. Let's make our dipping sauce. I have rice vinegar. I'm going to use 2.5 tablespoons. Two tablespoons of soy sauce. Half a teaspoon of toasted sesame oil, half a teaspoon of granulated sugar, and a couple of shakes of crushed red pepper flakes. Ready to go. Well, that was fun, and I hope you're going to have fun and enjoy the scallion pancakes you make at home. Meanwhile, if you haven't yet hit subscribe, please do it. It'll help me out. And if you like what I'm doing and you like these videos, why not give me a like, a thumbs up? Don't lie. If you didn't like it, don't hit the thumbs up. Don't like it. Go away. I won't be mad. If you don't come back, that's fine. If you do come back, you're still welcome. Okay, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'd love to hear your comments if you make some of these scallion pancakes. I'd love to hear how they come out and how you enjoyed them. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you again next time.